Hi, this is Ashanti from the Sense Making Circle, and this is part two. So there is a first video, a part one video before this one. So in this video, I'm not gonna go into everything that went into the sense making. That you'll see all of that when you view the part one or the first video above. What I'm focusing on in this particular video, which is part two, is just the sense making visual itself. So we churned out a couple of visuals, again, just experimenting. And these visuals come from all of the input and contributions that participants made in terms of notes, things that people put in the sense making template. And as a circle, we went through and we synthesized, we talked about what this might mean. And I think we were very careful not to read any of our bias. I think we're a very self-aware group. And what we focus on are what are those connection points? What are those big themes? What is everybody talking about across all of the various circles? And we tried to capture the big themes. This was definitely more challenging because we didn't necessarily have all of the sense making notes that we thought we would have, and I don't think we were surprised that we didn't. I think there were some uh, boards that had both the sense making notes and the notes. There were some boards that just had the notes, and there were some boards that had a little bit of sense making and no notes, right? So we just, and I think that's what was important for us to look at everything, and that's what we did. And we just slowly did it layer by layer, by starting with that first raw layer of data, moving up, trying to make sense of it, and then moving up to the next level, trying to see, well, what are the different connections that are coming up? What are we seeing across the different circles? What was everybody experiencing? So we took that, and that is the foundation for the visual. So there's one of the visuals that was created by Brandon. And so he went across and he looked at all of the various uh, layers that we had synthesized, and he was able to develop this visual for us. So this is one visual that we have. We also have a second visual, and ideally you only have one visual, but again, we're just experimenting, we're just playing with the idea. One of the things that Mary Jo and I did during a meeting is we talked about the graphic recordings that were done by our graphic recorders. So we wanted to acknowledge as well, what were they seeing? What were they sensing? So we did go through and look across all the different graphic recordings to see what they were picking up. I would imagine that if you're going to create a sense making visual, that the graphic recordings would be a part or connected to that sense making visual. And that's why you'll see these green dots on this particular visual here. It's because if you click on there, it'll take you to some of the graphic recordings that you can look at. Again, this is his experimenting, is his playing, right, of different concepts and ways that this could be done. And I think in terms of like of an output, your output is going to be the sense making visual of, that makes sense of everything that's happened. So the sense making visual plus the graphic recordings have been done. That is the deliver, that is the output, right? It's the overarching, this is what we experience. And here's some of the visual artifacts from that experience, which would be the graphic recordings. So I know we had a lot of ideas in the beginning in terms of how to make this interactive. In the end, how do we make it engaging and not just a standing visual, right? So these are some of the things that we thought about. Obviously, we can't do everything all at once, but those are just some of the things that bubbled up that we talked about, perhaps exploring, perhaps maybe down the road. I'm not sure if we will want to do this again, but this definitely is a heavy lift. And I think we had a really great group team that came together. I think it's important to perhaps maybe have a couple of people working on the visual I think we just tasked it to one person to create the visual, but I think we perhaps should have made this more of um, a more collaborative, perhaps maybe with two or three people, and not put the burden on just to one person. So, but like I said, this is sort of what has come out of this experience, and I think it went well for the most part. I think if we were going to do this next year, there's always an opportunity to explore some of the technology that came up in terms of sorting and organizing the data. I think that's something that if we were going to do this next year, that maybe another group or circle could explore, is bringing in some of those pieces. I think for now we wanted to play with the raw data and to see where it might go without putting too much extra on top of this group, because obviously this is something that's volunteer based. But I think if the next group, they're starting out with something, which is some knowledge that we're providing to them via the Slack, they can kind of scroll through and get an idea sense of where we started, and perhaps do an iteration and do it a little bit differently, and maybe bring in some of the technology that was mentioned in terms like I think there was like a knowledge capture tool or software or something to that effect. But I think this is kind of it. So I'm just going to close this up by saying thank you for the opportunity, allowing us to play. I feel like we did that. I would say if you're going to have a team for sense making for next year, it definitely is helpful to have a different variety and mix of skills. People who are executors, people who are maternal, paternal, designers, facilitators. I think that was a huge help having a facilitator. I think Lucy was definitely our facilitator, and she really was our driver. Brought up a lot of great questions. So was Brandon. Was definitely very curious. And definitely someone who was driving and asking the right questions. Mary Jo, the same. Definitely was helping us with a lot of the details, and really digging in, and along with, of course, with her, uh, you know, just her previous kind of experience doing some other things with sense making, and some of her observations around like bringing in some of the elements of Kelby Bird and a lot of different templates. So definitely, and Neha did an awesome job of, kind of ushering us along and really asking poignant questions in terms of, especially in terms of like communication, how things will be rolling out, and kind of pulling us back sometimes to to perhaps slow down a little bit. So yeah, just really appreciative of everyone. Great opportunity, and yeah, thank you.